"Hey, are you going to cycle today? It looks like raining." He says, "Oh, it's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing." So yeah, we modify everything according to our passions. But the sad part of it is underway back now. Just 5 minutes ago, I heard somebody from Eskom on the radio that says we can prepare ourselves. It's not official yet, but it's probably going to go to stage 2 load shedding after 5 this afternoon. But anyway, let's just deal with that when we get to that point. I think we've all, in the last year and a half especially, we've been really challenged to adjust whatever we've planned very quickly, almost on a sort of a minute by minute basis. But everything at the moment is fine, and it's not going to affect the delivery that we offer you. I know there are some students who really, especially with us being in winter now, or starting winter now, who quite enjoy actually being at home and doing the online classes rather than being on campus. But yeah, I think finding the right balance at the end of the day is probably the best. Where did we leave off on Monday? We left off on Monday. Oh yes, just before that, there's 2 logistical things I just want to add. I had a request from a student who submitted late. The fact is, when you submit on Canvas, it's going to show at what time you submitted. So I have opened the page again for submission for people who are submitting late. I think it's up to 1 o'clock this afternoon that is open again. But and I didn't make it public to everybody because it's actually only applicable to the student who requested me. But I know that other people might have also didn't submit and wanted to submit and saw that it is still open. It's open until 1 o'clock this afternoon. It will, however, show that when you submit, that you have submitted past the due time and date, which was midnight on Monday evening. And as a result of that, it will be open till 1, Mikhail, yes, but you will be penalized, yes. The normal late application policy, 10% penalty for 1 day late, 20% for 2 days, 3 days, 30%, and after that, you actually might as well not submit because we're not going to get any marks at all. Okay. So it is open until 1 o'clock this afternoon for late submissions, but late submissions will obviously be documented, and you will and marks will be deducted. That's a standard policy. It is on the instructions for each assignment as well. And then there's something else I want to just I'll remind you again in future. Got an email last night from academic head of our campus. And they have arranged for a session with industry experts. It's on, and you probably have. I know that they've posted an announcement. I'm not sure if you have received it yet. On the 11th, Friday, the 11th of June, they're going to have a session where industry experts are going to chat to you about careers in this field. And it's a compulsory activity. They'll send you or probably have sent you the link. I'm just conveying the message again and acting as a reminder for you, and the same will happen over the next couple of weeks. I'll keep on reminding you because nobody's really going to make anything but a mental note about dilemma today. We're going to be focusing on different things, and then before we know it, the date is out of head. So I'll keep on reminding you, but just make a note of that. Those are the 2 things I wanted to say. Yeah, any questions at this point? Anybody? Any questions? No questions? My question to you is, where did we leave off yesterday, on Monday? As far as I can remember, thanks to Teresa, what I can remember is that we just started and briefly summarized you the 5 characteristics, main characteristics. Yes, there's other differences, but the main characteristics that differentiate between, or that distinguishes products, physical, tangible products from services. And they are the intangibility, inseparability, perishability, heterogeneity, and ownership, or the lack of ownership, basically. So we'll be starting with the first one this morning, and that is the intangibility. From the images you see on the screen, because of the intangibility, the fact that you cannot touch it, it's very difficult sometimes to market. And remember, you are still students who have enrolled on a course that have in mind future careers in marketing, or some of you are in that field already. It is more difficult to market a service because the person, it's like that debit order that goes off on the first day of every month for your insurance. It's a drag because you don't actually see the product that you, in exchange for that payment, receive, up to the point that you actually need it, up to the point where you're in an accident, up to that point where maybe there's a burglary at your house and you are insured against that, and then you actually start experiencing the benefit. So it's difficult to market it. I tell you what, if I have to now market funeral plans to you as a first year group, predominantly ages between 18 and 20, you know what? I'm not going to find too many interested customers. However, if the average age of the class was over 40, it will be slightly different, because then people start planning for later on, and what happens later on in their life, or at the end of all our lives. For us, therefore, to really determine if the service is valuable, is that we evaluate it according to the quality of the product. And the quality comes through our own experience and the credence of the product. In other words, the credibility, of the service that you use. I've used two examples there because the one, I think prior to 2019, South African rugby, the image of South African rugby is probably not a great one as a result of the intervention and the involvement of a specific individual who was the head coach, and the systems that he brought in place. We won the World Cup, and everybody's very happy, and we are number one team in the world and world champions, and just the all-over image of that brand is very credible. Exactly the opposite, Mr. Jooste and Steinhoff, everybody was very happy up to about 5 years ago, and then all of a sudden the credibility of the company as a result of certain actions by certain individuals is probably not that great at the moment. We also evaluate the value of the service that we have used at the hands of our own experiences. There's no better way of telling me that that's the best hotel or the best restaurant than by actually going there and experiencing it for yourself. Yes, the references by other people and the stories that they share with you based on their own experiences are going to influence your decision to maybe go to that restaurant or use that particular hotel or guest house or B&B or airline. But until you've actually not experienced it yourself, I can tell you I was very impressed with Emirates Air. And if you've never flown Emirates Air, you can actually not be sure that you're going to have the same experience. Because you trust my opinion and value my opinion, you are probably going to try them next time that you have to fly. If your experience is similar as mine, it will add to my credibility as a source that you can trust in future for if you need to make decisions. But you also now can add your own personal experience when you evaluate the quality of that particular service. Anybody at this point on what we've just said, that you have examples that you can add, or that you want to share maybe, or want to check and see if actually it fits this particular section of the work. Anybody had experiences similar to that? Anybody had Steinoff shares and lost a bit of money? We're all good. The day after, as a matter of ironically, at that point that Steinoff crashed, I was renting property in Stellenbosch for the campus and the college I was involved with at that stage. That's what we were based in a building that was owned by Steinoff. It did not affect us at all, but there were some of the other tenants in the building and some of my colleagues actually who was quite aggrieved because they lost money. Their shares dropped from, I think, more than 100 Rand to less than 10 Rand within 24 to 48 hours. And they complained, and I said to guys, you should actually be grateful. You know what? I'm sad that you've lost money. The fact that you had the money to buy shares in the first place means that it's going well. So thank yourself in that regard. But Bitcoin is going to go through exactly the same, yes, Duncan. And we were all, and the bottom line when it comes to these things, and I'm not a sort of a financial consultant that can share these things with you. If I share what I share with you is based on my own personal experience and not necessarily my expertise. But the old saying, if something is too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. It's probably then just not. At some point, I experimented many years ago when it was very big. And it's before your time with Mr. Adrian Nieuwoud. He had a pyramid scheme that almost the whole of South Africa was involved in because it was cheap to get involved in. And then, like most of these things, you only really benefit if you have money on the side that's not going to make you any poorer, and that if you lose it, it's fine, but you're in it for the long haul. You almost sort of buy it and forget about it. That like that lady and South African lady who was in the UK about 5-6 years ago when Bitcoin started surfacing, and she bought, I think, 500 pounds of Bitcoin. They're worth more than 600,000 Rand at the moment. So yeah, but again, she just forgot about it. She left it. She was not. She didn't even pay attention to it. I wish that sometimes wish that can happen to me. You always hear these stories of people winning the lotto. Oh, I didn't even know that it was my winning ticket. People, if I buy a ticket for the lotto, I'll check my numbers immediately when the draw happens. I'm not going to wait and see. Maybe I'm just playing because it's fun and I'll never win anyway. What's the point of playing then in the first place? You want to check your numbers. Sure, I tell you what. So yes, Bitcoin is probably going to take a dive as well. But the time will only tell. The next characteristic that we can look at is inseparability. Now, inseparability refers to specifically the fact that the service cannot be performed if the service provider is not there. The service cannot be experienced if the consumer and the customer is not there. They both need to be there at the same time. In other words, the production and the consumption happens at the same time. You can't send somebody else to the dentist if you have a toothache, because you know what? Your toothache is not going to disappear, and that person, the dentist, is going to say, but you've got no tooth, I have to pull. So the experience is not complete if both the service provider and the consumer or the customer is not present. we can actually, let's see, maybe I'm going to try and see if I can actually activate one of these videos for us. No, it doesn't look like it at the moment. Okay, we might be able to. The two images that, or the two videos that I have there that you can watch. I'm a huge Queen fan. I was very fortunate to see them live when I was working in the UK in the 80s. And in hindsight now, probably a few of their, it's probably some of their last, the original Queen, last performances that they've ever done. The one video clip it's not Bohemian Rhapsody that most people know about Queen. But it is one of their performances for the Live Aid concert, I think in Wembley, more than 100,000 people. And it was also shown live. I think there was one in JFK as well at that stage. It's one of the iconic live concerts because it was not just a Queen concert. It was in aid of raising money for Africa and communities struggling in Africa. And I think everybody in music was actually on the bill and performed that particular day. Everybody had, I think, 15 minutes to perform their hearts out. And then the second one, the second YouTube clip is one that you will probably all know. I heard I saw an interesting clip the other day on Graham Norton, where this particular person, Neil Diamond, probably nobody heard about Neil Diamond. Anybody knows about Neil Diamond? Who knows? If I say musicians, famous musicians, and I ask who knows Neil Diamond? Heard the name, but doesn't ring a bell. Anybody? I know it's before your time, but he's still performing. I think he's older than 70, but he's still performing. He's still touring. Anybody knows who Neil Diamond is? Now, Caden, what is the most popular song that Neil Diamond has ever recorded? Andre, I think you might know as well. Because yesterday on the radio, I was driving back after picking my son up at school, and the DJ on the radio played a song. He says, "I'm going to play you a song now," and he named the artist's name, and he says, or he first asked a question like I just did now. I said, "Listen, it is an old people question, Duncan. But if I tell you what the song is, you'll probably say, oh, I never knew that he was the performer." Well, that's the experience I had in the car yesterday. Neil Diamond's most famous song is Sweet Caroline. Now, everybody that's ever been to a sporting event has probably heard this song, and it's very popular, especially in Cape Town during the Cape Town Sevens at the end of the year. If you haven't heard of Neil Diamond or the song, then watch the second clip and enlighten yourself. With Inseparability, it means that you can go to a rock concert, you can actually enjoy the show. You can't take the band home. If you want to hear their music again, you download it. Okay, 5 years ago, I would say you go out and you buy this the CD. Nobody buys that anymore nowadays. My son the other day he's collecting vinyls. He bought himself a few vinyls, and they gave him 2 CDs for free because they can't sell it anymore. Artists don't even record on that in that format anymore nowadays. But anyway, inseparability means that both the consumer, the customer, as well as the service provider need to be present for the service to be experienced. Right. Let's go to our next slide, which is on perishability. Now, perishability referred to specifically the fact that the service itself, unlike a product, cannot be stored in a warehouse. You can't buy a ticket to fly from Cape Town to Johannesburg for tomorrow and then keep the ticket for 2 years and then decide to fly. No, it's only valid on that particular day for that particular destination. If you miss your flight, then you've got to book another one. There are certain aspects regarding the perishability characteristics that's interesting to note. It means that you have limited use of that particular service for the time that you actually have paid for. You go to a restaurant, you can't just park there and say, listen, don't worry guys, I'm having such a nice time, just bring me another bottle of red wine. Don't worry, you can send the kitchen staff home. I'll lock up when I'm finished. No. You have a time that you have booked, you arrive, you enjoy, you go home. You temporarily have access to that, and that's the service that they offer you. It's not your restaurant. You can't take ownership of it, and we'll see that as the final characteristic of that distinguishes products and services. That it's not yours. You just have access to the use of it. Okay. It often happens that that during certain times, slower times, for instance, where either the demand is way less than you can actually as a service provider can perform. Those are usually the times that you get good discounts. On the radio this morning, I heard the town of George and Garden Route in the southeastern Cape is promoting their town at the moment as a mid-year destination for holidays, because obviously they took a big knock. Most people go there during summertime because it's very close to Mossel Bay and all the beaches, and there's hiking trails. They even have an airport that is for many years have been have won the vote as the best airport in South Africa, or even in Africa for that matter. That was, I think, just before the upgrades to Cape Town International. But it's a great destination, and they're really pushing it, and they're pushing it because at the moment they need to make up for what they've lost over the festive break, when we were basically not permitted to go to beaches and have those big gatherings, and that usually happens when service, especially in the services industry, when the supply exceeds the demand and there's not a great interest or demand for a particular service. That's usually when the restaurants are exactly the same. Restaurants, for instance, will have it was and it's still commonly known as a burger night special, buy one get one free on a Monday when you go to the Spur kind of thing. I mean, I don't do that anymore because my kids don't go to Spurs anymore. But I'm 50 meters away in the complex, and I stay from a Bossa in the clubhouse. So Bossa is a favorite of us. And it's a similar setup, but the fact is that they also have specials, and when there are specials that specifically targets a family, because it's a family restaurant. You don't go to the Spur if you want to have a quiet dinner with your family or with your spouse. That's not. The one on the left is the Spur scenario. The one on the right is a private romantic evening, which has two different experiences. But also you'll find that as a result of the fact that the image on the right-hand side, there are only two people. There are only two people in that restaurant. It's a nice, quiet ambiance and vibe. But I'm pretty sure that that restaurant would prefer to have, because of their status, they would prefer to, and they can offer intimate romantic evenings to more than one couple, and they would love all their tables. Those ones that you see that is empty, they would love that to be full. People at the Spur are just doing as many as they can, and they know it's a family restaurant. And you know, if you go there, it's going to be noisy. They are going to be singing because there will be birthday parties. and there will be kids running up and down. That's why family restaurants like the Spur, for instance, started a number of years ago already with Tuesday specials and Wednesday specials and Thursday specials, because they know that people are not necessarily going to go there every evening, and the people who are potential clients for the Monday burger night family outing is probably going to require or probably will rather prefer a less busy scenario, and therefore they have specials that they offer on other evenings. At some point, I quite enjoyed the rib special evening because, and I probably still do, but I think COVID has put a sort of an end to active social life. But yeah, I will definitely be in if a rib special evening is advertised. Anybody else? Anything that you want to share at this point? Own experiences? Anybody? Okay. Heterogeneity. What does heterogeneity refer to? Basically refers to the level, the quality level of the service, and that's going to be different from one day to the other. There's a there's the old saying that says, "Don't buy a vehicle that is manufactured on a Friday or a Monday," because on Friday the guys are thinking about the weekend already, and they are probably more inclined to maybe make mistakes, and instead of fitting all 5 screws for a particular wheel, they might just fit 3, and that could be a problem later for you. And on a Monday, they are probably still in sort of a weekend mode, because you know what, people relax on weekends, and they're not really as productive very often in some industries on the Monday morning. The service quality varies because of the involvement of the human factor. The 3 extra P's for the marketing mix that we add when we are marketing services, we'll get to them later on in this chapter, are the physical evidence, the processes, and the third element is people. Now, the people one is obviously the one that provides us the greatest challenges, because we are not in our best moods every day, constantly. We will have bad days, and because of that, your experience at the same venue on different days might be different. A lot of people go back. They have the expectation based on the previous visit to a particular restaurant or hotel or guest house, that the experience is going to be exactly the same. But then maybe the staff on duty on that particular day are not the same as they were when you visited the place previously. Hence the fact that your experience might be slightly different. Again, way before your time, but something that is very helpful to teach you everything about customer service, and more specifically what not to do to offer good customer service. In other words, it's full of bad examples of bad customers, or good examples of bad customer service. Is the video at the top, the video link, which is from a British comedy series many years ago. I think it was in the 80s, called Faulty Towers. John Cleese, for those who don't know, no, you won't know any of the movies that he's made. I think he was most recently involved in a South African a movie based on South African writers' experiences called Spud, the Spud series. He's the English teacher in that series, or series of movies. But that's quite interesting. He actually, and he has Portuguese. He has a Portuguese chef slash waiter, and it's filled with hilarious incidences of. And you actually think, wow, it's impossible for people that they will return to that particular establishment if if that's the kind of service that they experience and offer on a daily basis. But yes, heterogeneity specifically refers to your experience that you have and that you experience in the quality of service that you will get is going to be different on different days, mainly because of the involvement of the human element. My previous boss actually said his business would have been amazing if he didn't have any people to manage. Well, unfortunately, we know that as challenging as it is for management, it's something that no business can do without. Faulty Towers, awesome for those who haven't seen it. It's an old favorite of mine. It's not just old; it's also an old favorite. Right. Any questions? Anybody at this stage? How your service experiences? I mean, good and bad ones. Anybody who wants to share some good and bad experiences with me on services that they have that spring to mind? There's always in everybody's life there's a story that when I say your worst bad experience ever, and very often I find there's one that stands out. Strangely enough, people more often than not remember those horrible experiences more than they actually do the amazing and fantastic experiences that they've had. It's almost as if they expect it always to be great. And no, that is a unrealistic expectation. Sorry, there's a, a sneeze coming up and maybe another one. As you can see, in the middle of checkers and pick and play. Andre, you care to embroider that?
I don't have to. You can just walk into one and you'll see what the curve says. I don't have to. I don't want to elaborate. Just go to one and you'll see.
You actually don't have to, yes. And I think it's only, and the reason why we're so tough on these businesses is because we as customers have become too used to average service, and average service is actually acceptable to us. No, it shouldn't be, people. It should actually be exactly the opposite. Your expectations should be high, and I think we've lulled ourselves into that mode of that's okay, it's Africa. Nonsense. It shouldn't be. I mean, how are we ever going to get better if we accept that that average is the best we're ever going to be? I mean, no. I mean, that's why some football teams and some individual sports stars and performers keep on performing at the highest level. And what's going to motivate Pep Guardiola, a manager of Man City now, to get up in the morning and do his job? We all know. I mean, though Man City supporters will know that he wants to win the Champions League, and he will have an opportunity on Saturday evening to do that. That's one trophy that he's never won. He's won how many in any other competition and with different teams? So there's no question that he has the ability to do it, and he's one of the better managers you'll find. But there's that one thing that pushes him and motivates him to get up and try again if they haven't succeeded, and it bugs you up to that point. And we all have things like that in our lives. I know that sometimes if I'm busy marking assignments, and last night was one of those. I mean, I almost think that's the only thing I'm doing at the moment. But marking assignments and marking tests, and I got to a point last night where I said, you know what, I can actually work for an extra hour and then finish. with what I've set as a goal for myself, or I can actually just get up an hour earlier this morning. I'm a morning person, so I opted for the first one. Yeah, no, there's no that's the reason why it takes much longer, because I don't want to fall into that trap of delivering better services on a Wednesday than on a Friday and a Monday. But it's not going to affect your marks at all. I will always mark on it. I'm equally consistent with my marking on all days. No, don't worry about that, Andre. I know tongue in cheek, but I think we've all had those very bad experiences, and there are certain places that we will never, ever, ever go back to again based on the service that we've received. Very often because of our unrealistic expectations. But again, I think we are, when it comes to service quality, we are setting the bar way too low for ourselves as customers. We should be demanding better service and not just accept what we get, and be thankful for that. Right. The final characteristic refers to the ownership or the lack of ownership. When you use a service or make use of a service, you don't take ownership of that service. It's not yours. You can't take it home. You can't, when you fly, an image on the screen, when you fly, I think that's a KLM one, yeah, KLM, when you fly on any airline, it's not your airline. And in the case of SAA, thankfully, it isn't mine, because I would love to obviously own something like that. And I read in the paper, I think, was it on Monday, that it could have been Sunday, the Sunday Times. There's a new airline in the process of being launched in South Africa by a South African with a lot of aviation experience. And I want to just ask myself, why? Why do you want to go in? Why don't you just go into a proper alliance with existing businesses? It's a massive investment to get involved and to do it profitably. But anyway, that's slightly off the topic. But you don't take ownership of a service that you go to a specific salon or clipper club or whatever to have your hair cut. They do it, you pay for it, you go home, and you go back when you have to do it again. You don't take that particular barber or head stylist or hairdresser home and put them in a cupboard and take them out to cut your hair with. No, it's not your business. It's not the service. You just have temporary access to it. It's not your property. Some people. I love when I was working in the UK, and I regularly took weekend trips because it's so close by, and especially with the rail system, the public rail system in the UK. Oh, not in the UK, in Europe for that matter. It's a quick trip over to Paris. You can go there on the weekend, like people would go to the bushveld for a breakaway on the weekend, or go camping for a weekend, or go to the beach for the weekend, or to a holiday home that they have somewhere at the beach. It's that breakaway, and I regularly did that, and on many occasions, my most entertaining sessions were just sitting outside of a French coffee shop in Paris, watching people. Just observing people. You can entertain yourself for hours because it's a cosmopolitan city. There's a lot of tourists there, especially if the coffee shop is close to the Eiffel Tower, because that's one of those iconic sites that people and tourists obviously visit. When I got back from working in Europe for 2 years in the late 80s, my parents were obviously very interested in the photographs, because I mean, that was before cell phones. I mean, it wasn't, okay, there's the phone, go through it, or I can send it as it actually happens. So they went through the album, and my dad made the observation and says, but these are all from you visiting Paris. There's no photo of the Eiffel Tower in here. I said, well, if you want a photo of the Eiffel Tower, go buy a postcard for that matter. Because that was my whole intention when I did travel in between working in the UK, is to meet people and to expose myself to the different cultures as part of my learning process. And obviously, yeah, that results in you sometimes having to spend more time there. But I really enjoyed observing people because they offer you great entertainment. I could never understand. Just earlier this morning on the way to my medical checkup, it was I was astounded again in how bad our drivers are when it comes to what the English calls a roundabout, and we call it a traffic circle. Regardless what you name it, I still are amazed that people don't know how to function in a traffic circle. There's always confusion, and the confusion borders on obviously who's right, who has the right of way. But anyway, we're not going to go into that. But sitting in Paris at a coffee shop opposite one of these roundabouts or traffic circles that they have, it's an 8-lane, people. The maximum I think that we have in our country that I've actually driven through myself was a 3-lane traffic circle. There's 8 lanes there. There's a lot of noise. Yes, there's more traffic. I've never seen an accident happen there. If it was South Africa, it will be a pile-up. It will be a pile-up every single day, at least once a day. Anyway, different experience. Back to the topic of not taking ownership. I think that's one thing about the service that we can clearly distinguish services from products. Any questions? Anybody at this stage? Any questions? No questions? All good? Let me just check and see what my time looks like. We've got a couple more minutes. Yes, I don't think we'll finish the chapter today, but we'll give it a good go. Okie dokie. Thanks, Candice. There are different classifications of services. We classify services according to the tangibility and intangibility. Again, it's most of these classifications that we are going to address now is often a repeat of what we have that we have spoken about in the last 2 sessions, and especially today's session. It is, yeah, I think let's treat it as a sort of a summary of what we have just done so far today. The degree of tangibility or intangibility, we can use that as a classification, yes. Examples: food you can touch, we need it every day. We also do need insurance, but we don't have a framed copy of our insurance policy hanging on our wall, or that you find somewhere in a file. Most of it is electronic nowadays, and we basically only experience the benefit when when we have an incident where we require financial reimbursement for losses that we've suffered. Food, end of the day, we can touch it, we can feel it, we can smell it. I can't smell it at the moment. I still got a blocked nose. It's been with me for a number of days now, but fortunately, there's no other serious symptoms that's worrying to me at the moment. But still, it's almost as if we can't get rid of it. Another classification: who or what is the direct recipient of the service? Because of the ownership characteristic of services, we don't take ownership of discovery if we are insured by discovery, or if our medical is with Discovery. We don't own that company. We just own the rights to the content of that agreement that we have with them regarding what is insured or what the content of that particular contract or agreement is. When you watch a movie, exactly the same. The movie is not yours. You basically just experience. You just experience it, and in some cases, there's greater involvement of the customer, like the example that I've used with you going to cut your hair or going to the doctor or going to the dentist. There, you actually have to be present for the service to happen. It's not necessarily always the case in like for instance with if you send your watch in to be repaired, you don't have to be there and wait and watch. You don't go into the back of the shop and watch while the watchmaker repairs your watch. You hand it in. The service that they offer is that they'll repair it, and they will WhatsApp you and say it's fine, you can collect it. It's going to be $200 or whatever. So that's the service that you receive, but you don't actually have to be there to experience the benefit of that service. Similarly, with the example I've used on insurance policies. Right, if we look at the place and the time of the service, sometimes the service provider goes to you, sometimes you go to wherever the service is offered. You cannot fly, if you fly from Cape Town to Joburg, sorry for using that example so often, you fly from Cape Town to Joburg. If you want to make use of that service, you actually have to go to Cape Town Airport. The plane is not going to pick you up in your driveway. Okay, so you sometimes have to go to the place where the service is offered. Whereas opposed to you having a plumbing problem, there's a leak, a plumber needs to fix it. You can't take your plumbing to the plumber. They have to come to you and fix it in your house. Okay, so that's just examples of how services are classified based on the place and the time of where the service happens. Right. A further classification, is it customized or is it standardized? Very often services are customized. The insurance policy that I have is going to be different to somebody else because my needs are different. The size of my house is different. The content of the houses are different, and it's based on that there's a distinction between different services, and it is very often, or not very often, in every single case where there is a medical scheme involved or insurance policy involved or investment involved, it's based on the individual customer's needs and it's therefore customized. An example of exactly the opposite, a standardized version of a service would be the course that you're currently doing at Stadio. It's the same course, it's the same content, it's the same textbooks, the same exams, for everybody doing exactly what you're doing at the moment. If you're enrolled in a high certificate in business accounts administration or high certificate in business marketing, for instance, your curriculum is exactly the same, and it's been standardized, so everybody gets exactly the same opportunity and gets the same exposure. How people react to it obviously is different, but what is offered by the service provider is standardized and exactly the same for everybody. We can also classify our services according to the nature or relationship that the service provider have with the clients. You're going to have a more sort of intimate and relationship with your general practitioner, with your doctor. Your doctor, and you build a rapport with your doctor, or your doctor builds a rapport with you over a period of time. I recently changed, about a year and a half ago, I changed the doctor that I always have used as a general practitioner for many years. The reason for me was moving to a different area, and it was just not convenient for me always, especially in the case of an emergency where I quickly need to go. Then I don't need to drive 10, 15 kilometers to go to that particular doctor. If it's something really serious, because he knows my history, I will go there. But at the moment, the closest possible doctor that can offer you the same service is what's important to me. But you do build, the new doctor I've tried 3 new ones before I actually stuck with the one that I am currently with. Because when you change that, you need to build a relationship with that particular medical practitioner. And it's good because you want to feel comfortable, because when you visit a doctor, it's because you're not feeling good. You want to trust that that person has the ability to make you feel better. They will have a better opportunity of doing that if they know your medical history. And if that medical history has been built as part of the personal relationship that you formed over years with your doctor, it's going to be to both you as the recipient of the service and the doctor providing the service, is going to be a mutually beneficial experience. Your experience with the bus driver, if you get onto a bus or a train for that matter, or the pilot if you fly, is not going to be that personal. You know that they're in control of the bus or the train or the plane, and they have the ability to perform that specific service, but you're not going to necessarily make friends. I made friends with a particular bus driver because in the UK, because I was using the same route for more than a year, and that specific bus driver also, that was his time slot. So we actually later on became friends, but he was still just a bus driver. It's not the type of friend that you will, similarly to a doctor, that you're necessarily going to just invite over for a bride. But usually your engagement with people, in that particular case, a bus driver, or in this particular case, a bus driver, as the example, is not going to necessarily become a personal one. You're going to be friendly and he's going to perform the service, but you might never see him again, so or her again. Excuse me. I think I'm going to finish off with this one. I just want to check and see where we are with we can finish off 2 more. We can do the classification that is based on the extent to which the demand and supply are in balance. I think we sort of addressed most of it earlier in the session when I gave you the example of the town of George in the southeastern Cape. About being a seasonal, there's a seasonal fluctuation often in the tourist industry, especially for certain destinations, and certain places are more popular during certain times of the year. I know that when I grew up in the Northwest, and when the number of years that I stayed there, most of my experiences when it related to holidays were down in Cape Town because my grandparents were here, or occasionally we went to the coast at Durban, because that usually has a very nice climate during wintertime, for instance. So very often the supply and demand is varying based on the seasonal fluctuations. Lots of tourists in Cape Town over the festive period, because the weather is usually good. If you're lucky, there's no wind. But we can also classify our services according to the supply and demand, or the balance between the supply and demand, which is usually a challenge for marketers to try and match your capacity as a service provider to the level of service and demand that's in the market. The final one we'll do today, and then we'll address the 3 additional P's of the marketing mix on Friday, is that we can classify our services to the extent to which the facilities, equipment, and people are part of the service and experience. Some services, there has has to be performed physically. For an airline, there needs to be a plane, there needs to be people who handle the luggage. There need to be crew on board to fly the plane and to service the passengers. But then also when you have insurance policy, for instance, or a medical plan that you pay for, obviously then using the service that those companies provide you, there's not necessarily a lot of equipment involved, and hence the fact that you classify or can classify services differently based on specifically the facilities or the equipment. Anybody, any questions at this point? Anybody want to share something with me? Are we all good? Thanks, Teresa. Well, let's call this a day. Again, my apologies for starting a minute or two late. It was circumstantial, but I think we still did everything that I planned for today. Just before I sign off, on the screen, that's what we'll be doing on Friday. Thank you, Dylan. The 3 additional P's of the marketing mix when we are marketing services: the physical evidence, the processes, and the people. Okay, start thinking of those 3 elements, and then we can share some personal experiences. The one about the physical evidence that I always use, and I think I've included the video link as well, is the head office of Google. Amazing, absolutely phenomenal. You don't want to leave home or leave work and go home if you work at the Google head office in, I think it's California. But anyway, have a nice day, everybody. And we chat again on Friday morning. Keep well. Thank you.